Hey everybody, welcome to the Dill Pickle Movie Network. I am Dylan Randazzo, and I can't wait to tell you about two of my favorite films from last year, from 2020, and that is Minari and Nomadland. Now, you might be wondering, why are you talking about it now in 2021? 2020 was last year. We're forgetting about 2020. Well, guess what? These films had their festival releases in 2020, but they're now being able to be viewed by much wider audiences. Nomadland is actually streaming on Hulu starting this weekend, and Minari is starting to have a rollout in both theaters and on rentals on demand. So I thought it was an appropriate time to talk about these movies. A, because they're going to be in the forefront with a lot of Oscar talk. You know, we've seen these movies get nominated for Golden Globes, for Critics' Choice Awards, for SAG Awards. We're going to see it get nominated for Oscars. Both these films we're going to see get nominated for Oscars. So I think it's important to talk about them. And because now they're more accessible to you, and you can actually watch these movies. I think these movies are two good movies to talk about in tandem because they both have a similar theme, and that being the American dream. Now, the American dream is this idea that no one person has been able to define distinctly. The American dream could mean something completely different from one person to the next, and I think both these movies show a small version of what the American dream is for this specific character, or in Minari's sense, an entire family. So starting with Minari, this is an A24 release directed by Lee Isaac Chung, and it stars Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead. Rest in peace, Glenn. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but it's been a few years now, and a lot of us still aren't over it. Han Ye-ri as his wife Monica, and Noelle Kate Cho as Anne, and Alan Kim as David. Anne and David are their kids. And I think it's very interesting that we see a lot of this movie told from the children's perspective. And I think it's interesting because Lee Isaac Chung, you can definitely tell there was a lot of personal attachment to this story, and this is definitely a reflection of Lee Isaac Chung's own experiences as a child, growing up and experiencing these experiences in rural America in the 1980s. It is a very personal film. You know, it's not this huge blockbuster meant to tell this like crazy action-packed story. It is a slice of life. What a slice of life is, for those that don't know, it's basically what it sounds like. It's a slice of someone's life. You taking a piece of someone's life and showing it on screen. It's not necessarily this like beginning, middle, end, clear objective. This is what we want. This is how we're going to get it. And then these are our obstacles. This is our villain. It's not like that. It's just, these are the characters and this is what time period we're with them for. And we're just living with them. And I think that's what's so beautiful about this film, is just being able to live with these characters. Sometimes there's moments where the action, there really isn't much. But because you're so invested in these characters, and because you're so intrigued by their personal experiences as immigrants in this rural America in the 1980s. I mean, two things that I think aren't explored enough in film is stories about immigration and then stories about rural America. I really think we're used to seeing much different lifestyles in this, and I think that's why Minari is such an important film, and why, despite being a slice of life film, it's so intriguing and so powerful. Slice of life films could tend to become a little boring or stagnant if you're really not engaged with these characters, and I definitely was. And I think these characters are not only well performed, I think the acting is just incredible across the board, but they're so well written where even if you can't relate to their definitive experiences, you can relate to the emotions that they feel. You can relate to the idea of getting yelled at by your parents for doing something wrong when you're a kid. Like, these are all common themes that we see with families in all types of movies. But because this is an immigration story set in a very distinct time period and part of the world, it does feel so unique, but also so relatable all at once. And I think that's really the power in Minari, is how relatable it is, despite the circumstances being a tad foreign to a lot of people in America. One cast member I didn't mention, because she does come a little later in the film, is Yoon Ye-jun's grandma. Now, grandma comes about a third of the way through in this film, and she really just brings such a great charisma and such a great energy and light. The film is a drama. It's not this super tragic, heavy drama. You know, it's not like a Manchester by the Sea, but there are dramatic beats that really make it a dramatic piece. But grandma is kind of the not just the comedic relief, but she's the love, she's the heart, she's the soul of the film. We see some of the family members not really taking to her quite easily. You know, Alan Kim, who performs the role of David, I think he is not just one of the most adorable children to grace the screen, but he is a really good actor, and he really shows a great conflict with Grandma, but then we see their relationship grow, and I think that's the most intriguing part of the story, is seeing this relationship between David and his grandmother. I think telling the story from this child's perspective is a really smart choice. It really shows that connection between the writer, director Isaac Chung, and the work. You really see his own point of view told through the character of David as he's experiencing the issues going on with his parents' relationship, with his dad and his farming, with Grandma being a new person in his life. He hasn't met his grandmother up to this moment in the film, and I think it's really great to see what Alan Kim does as an actor, and how Lee Isaac Chung essentially writes his perspectives and his memory through the character. The film is just so humane. It's just so deeply rooted in these rich character studies, and I think there is not one member of the family that necessarily stands out amongst the rest. I think all the family members work so well together, and that's why it got a SAG nomination for Best Cast, because this cast, the film really relies on this cast all working together cohesively as a whole. Sure, Steven Yeun is getting nominated for Best Actor in some places, and Yoon Jung is getting nominated for Supporting Actress, and that's because they are really great in the film, but I do think this is about an ensemble effort, and despite being a smaller ensemble, I think it is one of the best ensembles of last year. I also have to talk about the artistic nature of this film. It is beautiful to the eye. Lachlan Milne shoots this film gorgeously. He's a cinematographer, and everything, from every blade of grass to every single expression, I mean, it's all just framed and shot and focused in on so beautifully. And it's really interesting to see a movie at such a small scale feel so cinematic because of how just gorgeous it is to the eye. And I think those are some of the best films, are the ones that are so personal and intimate, but feel so great because of the artistic approach to them. Another thing I have to highlight is Emile Mosseri's score. It is absolutely heavenly to the ears. It was one of my favorite scores of 2020, and I hope it gets nominated, because it is not necessarily a tune that you can necessarily like go around the house humming like some other iconic film scores, but it's a really beautiful score, and I hope it gets nominated. All in all, just a really solid film, really beautiful slice of life. Moving on to Nomadland. Nomadland is a film directed by Chloe Zhao. Now, you might recognize Chloe Zhao as the director of The Rider, which came out a few years ago, and she's going to be directing the new Marvel film Eternals. And what struck me first and foremost was that she was filming Eternals and Nomadland at the same time. And for a director to be able to juggle not just a beautiful, personal, artistic film as Nomadland, but also a huge blockbuster with that cast in Eternals, it's mind-blowing. It's really impressive to see a director take on this much, and to see the work she put into Nomadland. Chloe Zhao, along with Frances McDormand, the lead actress, and other crew members, lived in their vans over the course of the production. Nomadland is about a woman, Fern, who basically lives this lifestyle as a nomad. And if you don't know what a nomad is, it's someone who lives out of their van and doesn't necessarily plant themselves in a specific place to live. They sometimes travel around the world and go to different places and live out of their vans. And again, this is another example of the American dream and the American experience just told through a new lens. This film does not shame people who are nomads. It rather embraces it and really shows that this is another lifestyle, and it is a beautiful lifestyle in its own right. And while there are people that would say that that lifestyle just doesn't appeal to them and vice versa, there's a great appreciation on both ends, and the film never passes judgment toward a single way of living, and I think that's what I appreciate so much. Chloe Zhao actually, along with her crew, as I was saying, lived in vans. I mean, I think this is a great commitment to really just stepping into the shoes of these people as you highlight their lives on film. I think it's important to really get a great understanding and empathy toward these people, and Chloe Zhao does a great job doing that, both in her direction and her writing. A lot of the people who are cast in this film are real-life nomads, and a lot of their stories are the stories you hear in the film itself. It almost feels a bit like a documentary because a lot of these people are sharing experiences that are actually true to them. And I think it's really important to have films like this, like I said with Minari, that are so personal and intimate, but that feel bigger on a screen. I have to say, Frances McDormand is an actress that I've always loved watching, but this might be my favorite performance of hers. There's just such a groundedness and such a sincerity and an authenticity of Fern, the lead character who Frances McDormand plays. It's such a subtle performance. She's not trying to play it up at all. She's not trying to go for such an emotional, Oscar bait performance. But in her subtlety and in her authenticity and her natural ability to just live in these circumstances and live as Fern, she is getting all the acclaim that an Oscar baity performance would get. I think this is just an extremely excellent, transcendent, and deeply humane way of filmmaking. I know both these films I have similar criticisms for, in that they are both very humane. They are both very honest to the personal experience as a human and as in this notion of the American dream. But I think those are the types of stories that we're going to start seeing a lot often, because there are so many places worth exploring, so many different lifestyles worth exploring that have not been explored yet. And I think it's important to explore all different walks of life. I think one of the goals of film is not just to entertain, but to educate and to show you, hey, this is a different style of living and there's nothing wrong with it. But they do have their own struggles and their own challenges, their own obstacles. And here's how they overcome it. And here's how it could somehow relate to you. Even if you don't necessarily experience the same experiences as these people, you can still feel the emotions they're feeling, because emotions apply to everyone. Everyone experiences emotions. And I think that is one of the most beautiful things about both Nomadland and Minari, is that ability to just feel what these characters are feeling and understand these circumstances without living them yourself. And I think it's really a beautiful work of art. I think this is one of the most beautiful films to come out in a long time. To the eye, it's just gorgeous to look at, but also just to the soul and to the human experience. I've rambled on enough. It's your turn to go watch these movies, because I really think they're special. Even if they're not necessarily your cup of tea from a tonal or pace perspective, I get it. They're a little slower. But if you really just want to sit with characters that you can relate to and look at another point of view of life and really just take in a different lifestyle and learn something, I think these are two really great films in doing that. So if you have seen these movies, let me know in the comments what you thought of these movies. Maybe we feel the same, maybe we differ. But also tell me what movies you want me to review on this channel, because I'm open to watching whatever, whenever. I know we're getting a lot of new releases coming up that I can't wait to cover. Next week, you will be getting some Golden Globe predictions, where I will be telling you what I think will win these bigger awards. Again, awards do not matter as much as people sometimes make them out to. But I do think awards are a great way for people to hear about films that they necessarily wouldn't have seeked out otherwise. Nomadland, is there a chance that people would know what Nomadland was if it wasn't winning all these awards? I don't know. And I hope more films like this are recognized by larger audiences and just more appreciated along the likes of these big blockbusters and these animated films and family films. I wish these films were more at the forefront, and I think awards are good in doing that. So I will be giving you my awards predictions. Spoiler alert, Nomadland is one of those films that I think is going to win a great deal. So I will be giving you those predictions, as well as a reaction to the Golden Globes after they happen. And in March, I will be bringing you my own award show, The Pickle Awards, or as we like to call them, The Pickles. So please stay tuned for that if you're excited to talk about awards and all that jazz. We'll be talking about it the next few months until Oscars are complete. Until then, I'll be reviewing some of the bigger movies coming out. Tom and Jerry comes out next week, so yeah, there will be a review about that. And as you know, we are getting to the tail end of WandaVision on Disney+, and I have reviews for that every single Monday on my podcast and show, Marvelous Movie Mondays with Kelsey and Dill. I cover WandaVision every week with Kelsey Kilpatrick, and then after WandaVision, we will be doing a villains ranking within the MCU, and then we will be jumping into Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So please join us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, there for that podcast, or you can join us here on the Dill Pickle Movie Network. We have a video version of that podcast every single Monday. This Monday, we will be talking about episode 7. I I cannot wait for you to join then if you're interested. One last little tidbit before I go. I know the world has been experiencing lots of crazy weather the past few weeks. I feel like the last time I did a review or something, there was snow falling. My Netflix review, there was like snow falling, and now there's snow falling again when I'm recording this review. So please stay safe out there, stay warm. There are links in the bio below, in the description below, where you can donate, especially to our friends in Texas who are experiencing this weather that they really don't experience much. There are relief websites if you want to donate and help out with that below in the description. So I urge you to check that out. Even if you can't donate by any means, just spread the word, because I know a lot of other people can use some help right now in these times with this weather. It is insanely crazy. It's beautiful afterwards when the snow looks all pretty on the trees, but when it's coming down, especially in a place like Texas where they don't get a lot of snow, it can be really devastating. So please be mindful of them, and if you want to donate by any means, please check the links below. I will put them right in the description. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay warm, and I'll see you next time.